Good morning or afternoon, everyone. For those who have joined our webinar before, thank you. Welcome back. For those who this is the first time, welcome. Today's webinar is with enforcement and licensing. So we have Dushanka and Kenny as our subject matter experts. Uh, the webinars are pretty basic and simple. Everyone's muted. As questions, in order to ask a question, just submit it in the chat box and I will read the questions to Dashanka or Kenny based off which division they work in, and they will answer your questions. We asked for some people, everyone submit questions in advance, so we did get a few questions and we're going to start with those first, and then I will open up to the floor. So right now you can submit questions, and after I get done with these first 10 or 12, we'll go ahead and ask the questions that are being submitted in the chat box, okay? So just so we can get started, because I know we have only an hour to go. The first question is, why is a wholesaler held responsible and fined for a supplier brewery that does not keep an active license?
Um, I'll take that one. Absent any authorized exceptions to the contrary, a licensed distributor may only purchase from and or sell to a business that holds a valid license issued by the ILCC. It is each licensee's responsibility to ensure that they are selling to or purchasing from a business that holds a valid license. If they sell to or purchase from an unlicensed business, such as an expired license, that licensee will be subject to a violation.
Okay, perfect. All right, the next question I believe is for enforcement as well. Explain multiple scenarios of potential violations.
Um, Looking at the first example there, um, the question was how many hours per week do you get and what time it needs to end? I'm guessing based on that they're referring to happy hour. So I'll answer it in that vein. Under the permitted happy hour law, which is found at 235 ILCS 5/6-28.5 B Boy 10, a licensee may offer happy hours for not more than 4 hours per day and not more than 15 hours per week. Another example that they asked about was asking how bottomless deals are legal. So again, referring to the happy hour law under the permitted happy hours law, 235 ILCS 5/6-28.5 B Boy 2, drinks may be included as part of a meal package. A meal package means a food and beverage package which may or may not include entertainment, where the service of alcoholic liquor is an accompaniment to the food, including but not limited to a meal, a tour, tasting, or any combination thereof, for a fixed price by a retail licensee or any other licensee operating within a sports facility, restaurant, winery, brewery, or distillery. So I'm again reading into it. They're asking about bottomless. If it's included as part of a meal package, it could be acceptable. If it's just bottom unlimited amount of drinks, any other time that would not be permitted. The final scenario that was mentioned here was explain signage at the bar. Do you still need to carry said product to have the mirror or tin up? Signage in a licensed premises is intended to advertise a brand or a specific product. If the signage advertises a brand of alcoholic liquor, that product must be offered for sale at that licensed premises.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Appreciate those responses. The next question is actually still for you. We had a few questions for you up front. What are the rules regarding the state liquor license being framed or displayed? I think you actually answered that a little bit.
Sort of. So according to the Liquor Control Act, specifically 235 ILCS 5/6-24, it says every licensee shall cause his license or licenses to be framed and hung in plain view in a conspicuous place on the licensed premises. That information is also reiterated on the ILCC license that every licensee should post, as well as the letter that is attached to the ILCC license.
Okay, all right. The next question is, we have a large license board at our location that holds our licenses, including the state liquor license. The board has a glass covering. The state liquor license is not in its own frame per se, but it is in a large frame with other licenses and always displayed. Oftentimes, we receive citations for the state liquor license not being in its own frame and frame display. Can you clarify this for me? Is the first question.
Sure. And without knowing the specific facts surrounding how that citation was issued, it's hard to comment on why that particular violation was issued. But I see in the following questions, we may be able to clarify that a little more. So,
Okay. And then the follow-up to that was, can we put the state license in a smaller frame within the large license board?
yes, that would be acceptable with some caveats. So, as stated in the answer to the previous question about posting your license, the ILCC license must be, number one, hung in plain view, and number two, be in a conspicuous location. So long as those two conditions are met, the ILCC license may be posted with other certificates and/or licenses within a larger frame. The ILCC license is not required to be posted in an individual frame within a larger frame, nor is it required to be in its own frame separate from other licenses, so long as the entire ILCC license is visible.
Okay. All right. Another follow-up to that question was, will this be considered in its own frame, or does it have to be displayed completely separate from other licenses?
Sure. And we kind of already answered this, but I'll just reiterate it. So as we stated above, the ILCC license is not required to be posted in an individual frame within a larger frame, nor is it required to be in its own frame separate from other licenses. It just has to be, number one, framed in a manner where it's not covered up by other licenses or documents, be placed in a location that the entire ILCC license is in plain view, and be located in a conspicuous place on the licensed premises.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kenny. I'm going to give you a quick break and we're going to jump to the licensing question. Dashanka, first question is, out-of-state dealer, well, let me start over. Yep, out-of-state dealer, importer, license holder would like to sell directly to Illinois retailers. Is there an efficient way to obtain the needed license, or does the process require a new application for a liquor distributor?
Okay, so the question references an out-of-state dealer, which we refer to as a non-resident dealer. An out-of-state non-resident dealer who is not a manufacturer cannot self-distribute their product to Illinois licensed retailers. If you're not a manufacturer of wine, spirits, or beer, you cannot self-distribute. Your only option is to appoint a licensed Illinois distributor, and the licensed Illinois distributor can then sell this product to Illinois licensees who have retail privileges. So just to clarify, if you're just an importer of product or a duly registered agent and you're not a manufacturer, there is no license we can give you, no way that you can self-distribute directly to retailers. And then below, I mentioned self-distribution for wine, spirits, and beer. And I just want to reference the Illinois Liquor Control Act 5/3-12. There's a definition for a wine manufacturer. If you manufacture less than 25,000 gallons, you may qualify for self-distribution. That is through the winery shipper's license and the self-distribution exemption form. If you're not a state brewer, you would need a non-resident dealer's license and a Class 1 brewer's license, for example. If you're not a state distiller, you would need a craft distiller's license and a Class 1 craft distiller's license. So manufacturers can self-distribute if they qualify based on their production caps, and all these applications are available on our website.
Okay. All right, a follow-up to that question, D, was currently we hold a brew pub license. And are a small brewery that sells our beers in-house and a small number of growlers and crowler cans to go. Hope I said those right. Our question is, what is the process and the cost to be able to can our beer in 16 ounces or 12-ounce cans and sell those to local bars, breweries, and or also to kegs, 1/6 BBL or 1/2 BBL to sell, serve at and to serve at other local bars and breweries. That
Sure.
was a mouthful,
So
I'm sorry.
yeah, no problem. Thank you, Nicole. So at one time, a brew pub, um, they had full retail privileges, but they didn't have the ability. A brew pub did not have the ability to self-distribute their product to restaurants, bars, hotels, etc. That changed with Public Act 102-0442 that was signed by Governor Pritzker on August of 2021. And basically, there's a new license type. It's a brewer and a class 3 brewer. And that gives you full retail privileges and self-distribution privileges. So there is a way currently, based on this new legislation, where a brew pub can convert their license to a brewer and a class 3 brewer's license. They can maintain full retail privileges. In addition, they also are able to self-distribute.
Okay.
In reference to the second part of that, the question regarding the cans and what is required, you'll need to comply with federal label requirements. The Federal Tax and Trade Bureau oversees all federal label applications. Once a label is approved, they will issue a COLA. That's referred to as a certificate of label approval. There may be some restrictions on the local level in regards to size requirements for certain alcoholic products. There may be local ordinances that may be more restrictive in regards to the size of alcoholic products that can be sold within that specific municipality. So you want to check with them.
Okay. All right. One more question for you, Dee. What additional licensing do we need, or what change in our license do we need to do that? What would they need to change in that license to, I guess, be able to get the labels? And also, would we still have to go through a licensed distributor to move the product to local bars or breweries?
Sure. So that's similar to the initial question I answered regarding the brew pubs. If you would like, if you are a current brewer and you want to maintain full retail privileges, that is the ability to sell beer, wine, and spirits, and self-distribute, you can apply for a brewer's license and a class 3 brewer's license. That gives you full retail privileges and self-distribution. Self-distribution allows you to sell to retail licensees, bars, restaurants, hotels, etc.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dee. I noticed a few questions for enforcement in the comments. I noticed Kenny's answering a few of them. So I'm just going to read them out loud. Kenny, I'm sorry. I'm going to have you reiterate the information. One of the question is, is if an establishment is missing their suite number on their state license, but it's on their local license, will it get rejected? I think that might be for Deshanka.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, we really need to have consistent address information. It's very important. There are times where there's multiple licensees at the same address, and the main distinction, is the suite number. So it is very important that if your local license, if you have a specific suite number issued to you by the landlord in the local jurisdiction, make sure your certificate of insurance references that suite number along with your state license. So that's very important. And if you need to have that changed with us, there's a change of license information form. The only requirement would be a copy of your insurance and local license reflecting the updated address. And the fee is $24 to make that change.
Okay, thank you. Dee, I'm going to ask you one more question from the comment section since we're in the topic. Is it true that a class 3 brewer needs to be declined by a distributor to self-distribute?
Yeah, it's actually in the statute. You have to make an attempt to negotiate an agreement or reach out to a distributor in order to, and then obviously, let's say you're denied and they can't carry your product, you have to document that. You have to make an effort to reach out to a distributor. It's part of the application process. It's in the actual legislation. So yes, you definitely have to make contact with a distributor. Now, on the application, I think we have three lines where you can enter up to 3 distributors. You don't have to enter 3 distributors. You can enter just 1. That's perfectly fine. I know I get that question a lot. So you just there's no minimum or maximum number of distributors you need to reach out to, but you definitely have to reach out to at least 1 distributor.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Well, ask one more question to Shaka. I'm sorry. For retailers, this is enforcement. I'm sorry. For retailers, what is the enforcement focus on? Okay, I'm gonna try that again. For retailers, what are your enforcement focus areas for the upcoming year? That's definitely any.
Our enforcement focus, we don't specifically look at, let me start again. We don't look at specific areas when we conduct enforcement compliance checks. We just look for general compliance with the statute. Obviously, if there's changes in the statute or changes in law, we try to bring that to the attention of the retailers to make sure that they understand how to stay in compliance. But it's hard to say that we have a particular focus for this given year.
All right, thank you, Kenny. I'm going to ask the last couple questions that were submitted. This one is regarding signs. So Kenny, I think this should be you to answer this. Inside signs that a distributor donates that has a programmable digital part, why can't the business even say, "Thanks for patronizing the Big Red Barn"? A member was told that their name and product name can't be on the same sign.
That is accurate. Under the Liquor Control Act, signage may be provided to a licensed retailer subject to certain restrictions. However, those signs remain the property of the manufacturer or the distributor. And as mentioned above, signage is intended to advertise the brand or the product itself and not necessarily the retailer. One of the restrictions is that a permanent inside sign, such as a neon or programmable sign, must include the manufacturer's name, brand name, trade name, slogans, markings, or other symbol commonly associated with and generally used in identifying the product. However, permanent inside signs may not include names, slogans, markings, or logos that relate to the retailer. And again, to reiterate from above, signage provided by the manufacturer or distributor is intended to advertise the product, not the retailer.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Kenny, one more question for you. When an inspector is going through every open bottle behind the bar, what are they looking for?
Our special agents are looking at several things when reviewing the open bottles of alcoholic liquor. However, the main item of interest is if the bottle has any type of, quote, deleterious, contaminated, filthy, or putrid substance or insects. Most of this time, this takes the form of fruit flies in the bottle. If located in the bottle, if any of those substances are located in the bottle, the retailer will be asked to dump the bottle prior to the special agent's departure.
Okay, thank you. Last question, submission question is ounces to dollars. In 2015, there was a law included in the happy hour law where it said if your 12-ounce beer is $3, your 24-ounce beer must be $6. In 2015, not many were pouring 24 ounces of domestics. Now with the craft beers, there are a lot that pour 12-ounce or 24-ounce glasses. Is there any way to have this law changed? 12-ounce glass of craft beer may be $8. Nobody's going to pay 16 for a 24-ounce glass of beer.
Sure. You could certainly speak with your legislator to propose any changes to this law. The proportionality law to which you reference has been a part of the happy hour law since it originally passed in 1989. The intent behind these laws was to generally discourage overconsumption. By providing a discount on a larger drink, this tends to encourage overconsumption. In our most recent newsletter, first quarter of 2023, which is available on our website, the legal division clarified our interpretation of the proportionality law. While I would recommend you read the full article, I will try to provide a quick summary of what was presented. If the products are part of a regular schedule of drink prices and reflect a price increase accounting for a reasonable volume discount, then each size may have its own pricing, even if those prices are not exactly proportionate. For example, if the schedule of drink prices has an 8-ounce beer for $5 and a 16-ounce beer, then a 16-ounce beer can be included on the schedule for $9, despite the lack of exact proportionality in prices. However, if the schedule only includes the 8-ounce beer for $5 and a customer were to request a 16-ounce beer, or a retailer were to run out of the 8-ounce cups and instead use 16-ounce cups, the price will have to be $10 to maintain the proportionality requirement. If such a pricing scheme would result in an extreme discount or a program intended to serve as a subterfuge to the discounting restrictions found in the happy hour law, such a pricing scheme would be prohibited. For example, an 8-ounce beer for $5 and a 16-ounce beer for $5.25 would be prohibited even if it was included on the regular schedule of drink prices. Just to recap, the considerations that we will attempt to account for are: first, are the prices for the different sizes part of the regular schedule of drink prices, or is it not regularly available, i.e., in other words, a special discount such as happy hour special or a customer request for an off-menu drink size. And number two, is the discount an extreme discount a retailer may maintain regular but different prices for different sizes of the same alcoholic product. However, if there is an item which is considered not part of the regular schedule of drink prices, it is a happy hour discount, or the customer requests it or is given the off the schedule volume, then the price must be proportionate to what is on the schedule of prices.
Okay. Thank you, Kenny. All right, we have several comments, questions in the comments section, so I'm going to start asking these questions. I believe this is for licensing. For packaged beer and wine sales, is there a process in place for transferring products from closing stores to a different licensed store?
Thank you, Nicole. So basically, we have several forms with some legislation that had passed that I mentioned earlier in 2021. There were some new license types added, but there's also some changes to the transfer of alcoholic liquor. So on our website, under forms and applications, there's a section, and the section title is request for transfer of alcoholic liquor forms. And there's several forms. There's an XFER 101, XFER 100, etc. So based on the transaction, there are some options in reference to the transfer of alcohol from one store to another, or from a closed business to another. So we highly suggest that you take a look at these options. Once again, it's under forms and applications on our website. I think it's under other general form area, and you'll see requests for transfer of alcoholic liquor forms. And then there's a brief summary based on the specific scenario, and then you'll just have to decide which scenario fits your specific transaction.
Okay, sounds good, Dee. The next question is, Nina, I'm going to respond to you regarding this webinar in a second. The next question is, okay, so signage is supposed to advertise the product and not the brand, correct?
It can advertise the brand or the specific product, but its intent should not be to advertise the retailer.
Okay. All right. Next question is, for retailers, What are the most common license violations that you can see, and do you have tips on how to avoid them?
As discussed before, not having your license posted, which can take several forms. It can be that you have your expired license posted even though you've renewed. So as soon as you renew, make sure you get your new one up there. It's not in a frame, as we've discussed ad nauseum about the framing of the license. So make sure it is in a frame. Information on the license is inconsistent with other documents. So maybe you've updated information with the Department of Revenue or your public health department or things like that, and have not yet updated that with your local licensing authority or the state liquor commission. So that causes some inconsistency with the information across, which I think was spoken to in another question to Deshanka. So just make sure that all of the information is consistent across all those certifications. And probably the last thing would be that your local license, because again, just as a reminder, Illinois is a dual licensing state. So you have to get the local license first before you get the state license. And they both have to they both have to stay valid in order for them to be valid. That's kind of a confusing statement, but essentially, if your local license is expired, then your state license is also considered to not be valid during that period that the local license is invalid. So you want
Okay.
to make sure that you do renew both licenses when you have to, and that they're both available for the state license by statute is required to be posted. The local license may be required to be posted by local ordinance, but just to cover your bases, it's always best just to post it as well as your state license.
Okay. All right. We have some people asking. Oh, go ahead, Shashanka.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that, last October, enforcement and licensing worked together on an inspection checklist. So every time that you download your liquor license certificate or you print it, you'll see a second page to it, and it's an attachment. It's called Illinois Liquor Control Commission Inspection Checklist, and there's a whole list of items that our enforcement division looks for when they do the site visits. So that should be very, very helpful, and it's available to you under your My Tax Illinois account. And when you print your licenses out, you'll see that second page attachment.
Okay. That was actually the next question, Deshanka, so you answered it preemptively. Thank you. We have, just so everyone's aware, this webinar will be on our YouTube channel. So you can go and watch it and get some of these answers if you've missed them, because I know some people jumped on later. So it will be available on YouTube and our website for a limited amount of time, but you will be able to find it on our YouTube channel. The next question is, oh, so this is a Bassett license question. I will probably take this question. As it relates to Bassett trainers being listed on the license, is the individual who is listed allowed to represent said company as they work indirectly for the parent company? I cannot say for certain, Emma, so what I'll do is send me an email to the lcc.bassett@illinois.gov email box, and I'll have our Bassett manager contact you with that answer. Okay, next question. Are special hours marketed for specific groups allowed? For example, happy hour specials for teachers appreciation. Any clarity on this is appreciated. So I'm assuming they're asking, can you do happy hours for,
Right.
teachers? Is that okay?
So you can call the night whatever you want. So if you wanted to have an industry night, a nurse's night, a teacher's night, you can call it whatever you want. However, all specials that are being offered must be offered to anyone that walks through the door. So in other words, those if it's nurse's night, for example, you cannot under any circumstances offer discounts only to nurses and not to other consumers that walk through the door. So again, if you want to draw the crowd in by calling it Nurses Night, that's fine. But all specials that are being offered that night must be offered to anyone that walks through the door.
Okay. Next question. For marketing purposes, are signs stating a business will now be selling alcohol be okay for a retailer to post?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Okay, let me try that again or try to help you out with that one. We need a little bit more clarity for that question. So I believe Family Dollar, can you submit that question again because I'm not quite sure either.
And real quick, this may have already been answered, but I just noticed another question in the chat about preparing for your next annual inspection. And what I would like to say is visit our website. Our website has a tremendous amount of great information for all licensees. Deshanka mentioned off the licensing tab, the licensing division tab. The enforcement division has our own page that has the checklist that you're referring to. It lists we have a couple of different links that one will show you the most common violations for retailers, and another one will take you to the what we call the first inspection checklist, but it's basically a checklist that is followed by our agents when we're looking at our inspection process. So that would be a great way for you to be able to do a self-check to make sure you got everything in order and are ready for our arrival.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kenny. The next question is, what are the rules regarding THC and CBD products in a retail environment, either with alcohol or without?
I guess one clarification from Kathy, if she can provide it, is, are we talking about just offering the THC or CBD products if you have a liquor license, or are you talking about combining THC and CBD products with alcoholic products? Because that's an important distinction.
Okay.
And I guess without her clarification, and not to hold up the rest of it, I'll just say that as of right now, CBD infused, quote unquote, infused products with alcohol is prohibited. It's prohibited by the Illinois Department of Public Health. And until that gets clarified, we cannot authorize any of those products that are sold through our licensed locations. If it's just a CBD product that may be considered legal, then that would be something that they would need to consult with Illinois State Police's cannabis enforcement, or possibly the Illinois Department of Public Health cannabis section.
All right. I'm going to move forward until hopefully Kathy asks a more specific question. What differentiates a permanent indoor sign versus a temporary sign? I had an inspector tell us a poster that was on a bulletin board behind plexiglass was a permanent sign, so we could not have our logo on the poster, but that if the plexiglass was removed from the bulletin board, it would be a temporary sign. Not sure what the difference would be.
So the analysis that our agents use is not only the material from which the sign is made, but how the sign is mounted. And I guess where the distinction can be made is the sign itself may be a temporary type of sign. However, the retailer has affixed it to the wall or something else in a manner that makes it permanent. So without knowing the exact circumstances of that one just being under plexiglass, um, I can't say specifically, but one example I could give is many bars have the upright coolers that have the sign, the backlit sign with a frame right above the doors. If there's a sign that's slid into that mounting frame, that would be considered a permanent sign, even if it's a paper type of sign, which would normally be considered temporary. But for the purposes of analysis, we would consider that a permanent sign, which can no longer have references to the retailer.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Kenny.
Mhm.
Tashanka, this next question is for you. We had a problem where we were put on a delinquency list when it was another business entirely and not us at all. Any suggestion on how that happened and how that could be avoided?
Yes, no, absolutely. That's a great question. On our website, there's a delinquency list tab that you should be able to see, and there is a option for a bona fide dispute. You can file a bona fide dispute. It goes directly to our legal division, and those are a priority for us. So yes, If there is an issue regarding any issue regarding you being placed on the delinquent list in error, if you feel that you may have paid the invoice, if you have proof of that, you can attach that with your bona fide dispute as well. But yes, please, if there is an issue, please let us know via the bona fide dispute option, which is available on our website.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dee. This is another happy hour question for specific groups. This applies to just alcohol only, correct? Food can be
Yes.
discounted differently for different
Correct.
groups. All right.
Correct. We only regulate alcohol, so that's our concern.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is a basic question. With basic certification being required by the state of Illinois, yet not all municipalities require the basic certification, do we, a grocery store chain, follow the state or the municipality ordinance? You should follow both. So definitely follow state. All personnel should be BASIC trained. And then if the local municipalities has rules or ordinances, you should follow those too.
And if I can just add to that, Nicole, I would say that based on it being a grocery store, I'm guessing they only have an off-premises license, which under state statute would not require BASIC certification, but the municipality may be more restrictive and require all licensees to have their staff, whether they're on or off premises, to be certified. So that
Okay.
could be what's causing the confusion in that particular location.
All right, thank you, Kenny. The next question is, a business is now licensed for alcohol. Is it okay to have marketing posted stating, for example, now selling alcohol?
And I'm again making an assumption that you are making the sign yourself, then that there's nothing that would prohibit you from advertising that you're now selling alcohol.
Okay. All right. Okay, Kathy was able to respond and she said yes, selling these products in a liquor license establishment. So they will be selling in the establishment.
There's nothing in the act that would necessarily prohibit that, but to make sure that the products are lawfully being sold, that's probably a question for the state police, cannabis enforcement, or Department of Public Health.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. All right. Next question is, are there any circumstances in which a beer manufacturer is permitted to buy back out of cold beer from a retailer? May a wholesaler distributor buy back out of cold beer from a retailer? If so, may the supplier then reimburse the wholesaler for the return?
So when you use the term buyback, what you're basically saying is a consignment sale that you've bought it from the distributor and you've allowed it to go out of code, and now you want them to buy it back because it's out of code. Consignment sales in Illinois are strictly prohibited. However, there is an exception in the statute, which I know there was a question in the chat on whether we could get these sites put out somewhere, but this particular citation is 235 ILCS 5/6-5.5, and that talks about the fact that consignment sales are prohibited. However, there are certain exceptions where a retailer, or I'm sorry, manufacturer distributor may be able to rotate or exchange products that have went out of code. So the main points here with a manufacturer with distribution privileges or a distributor being able to accept those returns and exchange it for fresher beer is that they must have a policy and procedure in place that specify the date that you must pull the product. The brewer's freshness, return, or exchange policies and procedures are readily verifiable and consistently followed by that brewer. And we're talking about between the brewer and the distributor. And the container has identifying markings that correspond with that date. So as long as the product is pulled out not to exceed 30 days prior to the freshness or code date, then that is a possibility. What the retailer cannot do is if it's a product they no longer want and just want to get rid of it and they hold on to it until it goes out of code, that cannot be returned under any circumstances.
Okay. Thank you, Kenny. Next question is, what is the rule concerning wholesale price increases? Do liquor and beer distributors need to notify accounts of price increases in writing?
There's nothing in the Liquor Control Act that would require that.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. Our hotel has a retailer on-premise license. We have a gift shop inside the hotel. We are constantly asked if bottles or cans of beer or wine can be sold from the gift shop and taken to the guest room. Not leave, they won't be leaving the hotel. Is that allowed?
I'm going to have to defer on that one and take that one through our legal team to
Okay.
confirm whether or not that is actually allowed. That's a good question, but I don't want to give bad information.
So if you have, with the person who submitted that question, you can actually reach out to legal and ask that question. I believe their email is ilcc.legal@illinois.gov. And I'll put that in the chat as well. All right. Next question is for Bassett. Would it be possible for a Bassett renewal instead of retaking the course to be able to prove a fluency through a test to save time? Thanks for that question. We're actually working on a few different things with Bassett right now. If you are a current trainer, you'll be seeing emails within the next 60 days coming out about some changes. And we also have our own Bassett Trainers webinar every quarter. So if you're interested in that, please send an email to lcc.bassett@illinois.gov and we can make sure you're part of that list. Okay, thanks, AG. All right, next question concerning delivery fees, gas fees. Some of our distributors have exorbitant amount of delivery fees that keep going up. Is there anything prohibiting my bar or restaurant for assessing a similar check writing fee to charge the distributors back? I'm not sure the distributors would agree to it, but I'd like to know if the ILC had an issue with that practice.
Yes, that would be prohibited.
All right.
There's nothing in the Liquor Control Act that prohibits the distributors from assessing a reasonable fee associated with delivery, whether it's a gas surcharge or delivery fee, whatever they call it, as long as it's charged to all similarly situated retailers. However, if a retailer were to start charging a distributor a fee, then that would require the distributor to provide something of value back to the retailer, which is something that is strictly prohibited.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. We are coming up on the last about 13, 14 minutes of this webinar. So please submit any additional questions so we can get all of them answered as quickly as possible. If there's anything that I missed, please let me know. I'm trying to see everything really fast. For the Bassett questions, I know you guys have some questions regarding Bassett. Please submit your questions to the Bassett email so I can take the time to look at it because again, stated that we are making some changes to Bassett, including the licensing areas. So any of those questions, please submit them to our email address, lcc.bassett@illinois.gov. All right, we have a few more questions coming in. All right, Kenny. Did I miss anything, Kenny or Deshanka? Did you notice anything?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. And there are a few questions regarding just logging on issues for this webinar. Again, it will be on our YouTube channel and it will be on our website as well. All right, next few questions. Okay. If a manufacturer produces a brand of I'm sorry, I'm going to start that over. If a manufacturer produces a brand of an individual, what type of licensing would that individual need to sell to? When you say individual, I'm sorry, I need clarification. Are you to that, Greg? Are you talking about a particular brand of beer, wine? I'm going to give you oh, for an individual. Okay.
So if I'm reading Greg's question correctly, what he's asking about is he, as an individual, would has an idea for a recipe for, let's say, beer. He approaches a brewer to brew that beer on his behalf. And then now Greg wants to sell his brew that got brewed to retailers. And in order for you to do that, correct if I'm wrong, Deshanka, you would need to be a distributor, but that may cause some issues. This type of contract brewing is a very complicated issue that it may not be very easily answered in this short amount of time we have. So the short answer of it is you likely would not be able to become licensed in a way that would allow you to sell your product that you have had somebody else produce to retailers. So I would also suggest maybe reaching out to licensing with a full business plan, and maybe they can look at it and see if there might be some licenses that would fit, or contact an attorney that specializes in liquor law.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. All right. Kathy, I noticed you asked a question. We did ask all the submitted questions. So if you have additional questions, please go ahead and throw it in the chat for me real quick.
Nicole, I think there was a few additional questions that were previously submitted that are still pending.
Okay.
If we
Right.
have time.
We do have time. We have about 10 minutes. Uh, yes, that one.
Starting with number 9.
Number 9. Thank you. We sure did. Ah, so many papers. Okay, so number 9. What are the rules? What are the rules for private clubs? Example: the club is private, but does have events open to the public. Does everyone need to be BASSET trained or just a good number of them? I'm assuming for their public events they do, or most of them working do. But what about when it's just members serving members?
According to the Bassett statute, 235 ILCS 5/6-27.1, all alcohol servers are required to obtain and complete training that in basic responsible alcohol service. In other words, Bassett approved training. Alcohol servers means anyone who sells or serves open containers of alcoholic beverages at retail, anyone who delivers mixed drinks under section 6-28.8, or anyone whose job description entails the checking of identification for the purchase of open containers of alcoholic beverages at retail or for the entry into the licensed premises. In other words, the last one is talking about your bouncers or your doormen. The definition does not include a distributor, importing distributor conducting product sampling. It does not include a volunteer serving alcoholic beverages at a charitable function or an instructor engaged in training or educating on the proper technique for using a system that dispenses alcoholic beverages. The statute does not currently provide any type of exception for a quote private club. So whether they're just serving their own members or they're serving the public, they must be Bassett certified.
Okay, thank you. The next question is the mandatory signs that establishment must have up. Is there a fine if their underage sign is outdated? Say it says 2001 instead of 2002.
Under current state laws and rules, the only required signage to be posted are the pregnancy warning sign, 235 ILCS 5/6-24A, and the human trafficking public notice, 775 ILCS 5/50-5. While the age sign is a sign that is highly recommended, it is not required to be posted. Your local licensing authority may have a local ordinance which requires such a sign, so you should also consult with them to ensure compliance with the local ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. And just so we make it clear, a lot of people will know this, but you can download those signs on our website as well. All right. The next question is, what's the difference between infused and mixed?
Well, buckle up. This is a fun one. This is a very confusing issue, and I'll attempt to clarify it. A quick rule of thumb to consider: all infusions are pre-mixed alcoholic beverages, but not all pre-mixed alcoholic beverages are infusions. Understanding the difference between these two things is very important, as pre-mixed alcoholic beverages and infusions have different requirements. An excellent article on this topic was included in our newsletter in the second quarter of 2020, which is available on our website. We also have an FAQ document for infusions that's also available on our website. A premixed alcoholic beverage is a combination of alcoholic liquors and/or non-alcoholic drinks in a single container to allow the bartender to more easily serve the consumer. Examples of premixed alcoholic beverages include, but are not limited to, margaritas, Long Island iced teas, Vegas bombs, and Jello shots. Requirements for premixed alcoholic beverages can be found in our administrative rules, which is section 100.160E. An infusion, on the other hand, is specifically defined in our statute, 235 ILCS 5/6-22.5. It's defined as a spirit where ingredients, including but not limited to fruits, spices, or nuts, are added to naturally infuse flavor into the spirit. This definition provides a very important distinction between an infusion and a premixed alcoholic beverage. An infusion may only be made from a single distilled spirit. An example would be fruit-infused vodka, which could be made by placing fresh peaches into a sanitary container of vodka. If the mixture is based on any other type of alcoholic liquor, such as wine, it cannot be considered an infusion. As a result, any type of premixed alcoholic beverage that does not meet this definition will be considered a premix and must comply with those requirements. The second issue for you to consider is if the fruit, spices, etc. are placed into the spirit to infuse the spirit with the flavor, or if it is the other way around. As an example, are you dumping vodka into a container of pickles and serving the resulting liquor as a, quote, pickle shot? That is actually considered a premix. If, on the other hand, you are placing only the pickles into a sanitary container of vodka and serving that liquid, that would be considered an infusion. So again, it's a little confusing, but the bottom line is, are you placing something into the alcoholic, to the spirit to infuse that flavor into the spirit? That's an infusion. If you do it pretty much any other type of way, it's going to be considered a premix, very likely. You're muted, Nicole.
Sure was. I said, thanks, Kenny. That was a lot of, hopefully it helps someone. The next question is for you, Kenny. It is there a law out there that states an establishment must have a separate space for mothers to express breast milk?
Nothing in the Liquor Control Act requires this. However, other state statute may require this. I'd suggest consulting with your attorney or possibly contacting the Illinois Department of Human Service, as they may have some guidance on that.
Okay. We're going to take the last couple questions. When we exchange out of cold beer, should it be marked as on an invoice as a credit off another line item for the replacement?
That's ideal for us. The goal for those invoices when you're doing the rotation like that, or what we call a rotation, is that we essentially see something going out and something coming in, and we can kind of mark them off. They kind of cancel each other out. But whatever method your distributor uses to make it very clear what happened and why that product's being taken out, that's what we're looking for on those invoices.
Okay, sounds good. We have about 2 minutes left. Are there any additional questions? If not, we're going to wrap this up. Going once, going twice. All right, thank you. Wait, last one. All right, perfect. We have one more question. This is the last one. Are bartenders allowed to add CBD or Delta 8 to drinks?
No.
All right, great. Perfect short answer. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Deshanka. I appreciate you guys taking the time out your day. I hope that everyone online does as well. I hope we answered all of your questions to your liking, and we will do this again at some point this year. And you can again find this on YouTube and our website if you missed something early on and jumped on late. Thank you again, both Deshanka and Kenny. Hope to see you guys again soon, and we appreciate what you did today. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.